Professor Mitic. I am really very honored to be here today among you. It's really a privilege to be here, and I will immediately say that I have also been a Rotarian in two places. I was a Rotarian, first of all, in Suriname, which is in Latin America, and then in Bratislava, when I was there, also posted. And here I am an honorary member of the Rotary Club Belgrade Vračar. So I feel in a certain sense at home among yourselves, and I hope that you will also feel at home with me here. And I hope, and I really would like to make this interactive. So if you don't agree, I like that. Please interrupt me, and if you have questions afterwards, also please put them, because that will increase the knowledge and the transfer of knowledge between us. Two-way street. Why I chose the title of saying imagining Serbia in the European Union and then understanding toward the road towards that goal is that normally, and I think you will have heard already a lot about the European Union, but it always starts with the road. You need translation? Oh, I'm sorry.
Uvod, da li potrebno uvod, znači, prvo bilo pitanje zašto je odabrao temu Srbija na putu ka Evropskoj uniji. Pre toga rekao, znači da bih volao da ovo bude jedna otvorena diskusija i da vas poziva sve ukoliko se oko nečega ne slažete, da slobodno izložite svoje argumente i da konfrontiramo stavove ovde u cilju pravljanja najbolje moguće diskusije i poenta je znači taj put, sama važnost puta koji sada Srbija treba da zauzme prema Evropskoj uniji.
And so perhaps first of all I should congratulate you on opening the negotiations just now. It's a very important step. I think Prime Minister Dačić said that it was the most important step after the Second World War. I don't know whether it is really that, but it is really a very important step because you are now really on your road towards the European Union.
Prvo bih želeo da svima čestita što je Srbija počela pregovore i naš premijer Dačić je izjavio da smatra da je to najznačajniji događaj u Srbiji posle završetka Drugog svjetskog rata.
I think it's now really the sign that you are going to make the transformations you have to make in order to come to the European Union.
To je znak, znači da je Srbija sad spremna da uradi određene transformacije u svom društvu da bi bila bliža Evropskoj uniji.
And from my part, as an embassy here, so my whole team is really dealing with two issues in Serbia. The first issue being the accession negotiations, and the second issue are the economic relations between our two countries.
Sa moje strane, kao ambasadora, dve stavke su najbitnije. Prva i tima, znači prva stvar je znači sam proces pripajanja, pregovora.
And the second one is the economic saradnja.
I ekonomska saradnja koja se sada otvara tim povodom između Evropske unije i Srbije.
You already know very well that it's very simple. There are three main criteria you have to fulfill.
Pretpostavljam da znate da je vrlo jednostavan kriterijum koji treba ispuniti.
The first one is the political criterion. And the political criterion is that a candidate country must have achieved stability of institutions, guaranteeing democracy, the rule of law, human rights, respect for the protection of minorities.
Znači, prvi set pravila je politička pravila. Znači, zemlja mora da garantuje stabilnost, politička prava, manjinama i vladavina zakona, ljudskih prava i poštovanja i zaštite manjina.
Then there are the economic criteria. The economic criteria is Serbia must be able to compete in the European Union. It must be able to compete on this large market of 500 million people.
Druga stavka je vezana za ekonomiju i za pravu mogućnost Srbije da se takmiči na otvorenom evropskom tržištu sa ostalim članicama.
And then the third one, which are the obligations of membership. You're becoming a member of a club, and the club has rules, and the obligations of membership are accepting all the rules and regulations of the club, and on top of that, being able to implement them.
I treće je znači prihvatanje određenih obaveza koje nosi sa sobom članstvo Evropske unije, jer Evropska unija jeste klub i kao takav ima određena pravila koja mora da se prihvate i poštuju.
Now, people will tell you from time to time that the European Union has new criteria, asking for new criteria.
Srđan, reći ćem da Evropska unija sada ima neke nove kriterijume i da se stalno pojavljaju neki nove kriterijume i da traži neke uslove.
That is nonsense. There are no new criteria. The criteria are very simple. I just mentioned them, but of course, it's a huge body of law.
Znači, to jednostavno nije tačno. Kriterijumi su i dalje potpuno isti, ali postoji ogroman set zakona koji prate članstvo u Evropskoj uniji.
So the criteria were set already in 1993 at the Copenhagen European Summit.
Da, kriterijumi su donešeni još 1993. na summitu u Kopenhagenu.
And are also listed in the Treaty of Maastricht, on which I personally worked when I was in the ministry in the European Integration Department.
Također se nalaze u Maastrichtskom triptiku, donešenom Maastrichtu.
Maastricht.
Yes, Maastricht.
And it's simply, and that simply perhaps is between some hyphens, is simply that you have to accept everything which has been built since 1951. We're already on our way since 1951.
I jednostavno pod znakovima navoda je da sve što je donešeno od 1951. kada je prošao proces ujedinjavanja, mi jednostavno moramo da prihvatimo i da primenimo u našem okruženju.
And then other people tell you, well, it's a moving target. You accomplish this and then the European Union is somewhere else.
I onda će naravno jedan broj ljudi reći da, to je pokretna meta, vi tamo završite jedno, a onda oni postave neke druge zadatke.
Look at it like a train which left its station in 1951 and which is continuing its way.
Gledajte to kao voz koji je krenuo iz stanice 1951. godine i ide prema svom cilju.
But now let me turn to the theme I wanted to talk about. This is just the basis. The theme, I'm looking at it in a different way. Serbia is already in the European Union.
Sada se vratimo prema onoj stvarnoj temi o kojoj bi ono trebalo da govori. Srbija jeste u Evropi.
That means that you have become part of the internal market.
Tako da smo mi već deo tog nekog unutrašnjeg tržišta u Evropskoj.
And I think that is a good start because the European Union was first of all built on the four freedoms being the freedom of movement of persons, movement of capital, of goods and of services.
Da, i to je dobar znak jer je sve i počelo sa tom slobodom kretanja kapitala, ljudi,
services,
usluga i robe.
And that is what we call the four freedoms. That we make a market in which all this can move freely. And I think we have gone a long way. The only side of the four which is not yet completed is the services. We still have a lot of problems with services.
I Evropska unija je puno uradila po svim tim pitanjima koje se odnose na 4 pravila slobode, jedino da još treba raditi je po pitanju usluga.
And now, in fact, you have also to see this in a further dimension. that the European Union, even if it is 500 million people large, is part of a world community, and the world community itself has influence on the rules of the internal market, and that through the WTO.
Iako se to sad sagleda još u širem spektrumu, da ne samo da se radi o tržištu koje pokriva 500 miliona ljudi, ono jeste pod uticajem spoljašnjeg uticaja ostalih tržišta sa kojima Evropska unija sređuje.
And part of this market are not only the 28 member states of the European Union, but also 3 countries which are not a member state, but which follow all the rules and regulations of the European Union.
I ovdje se ne radi samo o tih 28 zemalja koji su u zvaničnom sastavu Evropske unije, pa se radi o zemljama slobodnim članicama koja nisu u Evropske unije, a koje samo poštuju pravila i regulative tržišta Evropske unije.
So Serbia will then have all the freedoms, but also all the obligations of a single market.
Da, i shodno tome, znači uz sve privilegije i sve obaveze koje nosi tako jedna združeno tržište.
It will have a free field for its products, for its capital, for its people, and on the other hand it will face this competition.
S jedne strane se otvara mogućnost znači, za slobodno kretanje robe, kapitala, ljudi, ali s druge strane će imati izazov vezan za svu tu konkurentnost koja treba da usledi prema zemljama Evropske unije.
And that means, and that was the whole idea, that means that you will have a higher level of specialization, that you will try to arrive at a larger scale of economy in order to get your products through in the European market.
I to je sada izazov, znači da se uradi čitav taj niz specijalizacija naše i podešavanje naše privrede da bi bila mnogo konkurentnija na evropskom tržištu.
And if you do that, you have a good deal. If you're not able to do that, you will face a lot of competition on your own market.
Znači, ako Srbija uspe u tom svom pokušaju da poveća konkurentnost svoje privrede, bit će na dobrom putu. Ukoliko ne, onda će imati mnogo problema zbog kvalitetnih proizvoda koji dolaze sa evropskog tržišta.
And for us, this deal is also only working if you are doing this. Because if you're not able to open your market to us, it's only that we open the market to you, which is not a good deal. The deal is good if both sides work together.
I to je jedna vrsta dvosmerne ulice, znači ovaj koncept radi samo ako se istovremeno otvara i tržište Srbije za evropske proizvode i ako Evropska unija otvara svoje tržište za srpske proizvode, gde Srbija opet mora da posjeduje nivo kvaliteta da bi bila kompetentna.
And therefore, it also asks that your procedures will be open and transparent, that the quality of your legal system will have become very efficient in order to handle all this.
Sad dolazimo do nivoa, znači da se zakonodavni sistem u ovoj zemlji mora da bude takav da sve bude transparentno i vidljivo da bi obezbedio proces koji bi doveo do povećanja konkurentnosti srpske proizvodnje.
We need, really, it's the basis of everything, we need an effective judiciary, effective, professional, independent, and fast system of the judiciary.
Da, znači dolazi se kao sam početak je potrebno efikasni sudski sistem koji može da procesuira stvari na kvalitetnom nivou.
Because the whole system is built on the rule of law.
Znači ceo sistem Evropske unije se zasniva na vladavini zakona.
What I find the most, which touches me most, as to explain what the European Union is about, is you have a European regulation, and your country is not implementing that regulation.
Da, ono što me najviše upada u oči je to da mi vidimo te evropske procedure, ali naša zemlja ih ne primenjuje.
One regulation. Then you as a citizen of Serbia, you must be able to go to your own judge, not the judge in Strasbourg, or Strasbourg is not in Luxembourg, but you go to your own judge.
Da, znači, mi bismo kao građani Srbije trebali prvo da idemo kod naših sudija, verujemo našem zakonodavstvu, a ne da idemo u Strasbourg i da...
And not judge. And you ask the judge, you say, look, this is the European legislation, and look, the state has not implemented.
Znači, trebalo bi da budemo u mogućnosti da odemo kod sudija, mu kažemo, vidiš, ovo je zakon Evropske unije, a evo ga ne primenjujem.
Please, judge, condemn the state either to fulfill its obligation or to give me, how do you call that, compensation.
Da, znači, ili će ti zakoni morati se promene, ili će morati da sledi određena kompenzacija tim ljudima čije su prava povređena neprimenjivanjem zakona Evropske unije.
And that shows how strong your justice system has to be, because I'm not talking about Supreme Court justice, I'm talking about the basic judge.
I tu se govori o pravoj reformi sudstva, da ne mora da se ide do centralnog vrhovnog suda, već da se to radi na nivou sudstva koji reguliše naše osnovne zakone.
And for me, that is what about the European Union is so special, that laws taking at the level of Brussels have immediate effect on your own situation.
To je jedna od najbitnijih stvari u Evropskoj uniji, znači da zakoni koji se donose na nivou Brisela imaju svoj efekt i na najnižim nivoima.
And the second thing which makes, it's a little bit a prolongation of the same argument, but it is another way of looking at it, is states are very good in not fulfilling the obligations they take. They do it every day in the international arena. States find a way of wiggling out of their obligations.
Da, i kao dodatak, on staje da su države veoma dobro u izbegavanju izvršavanja njihovih obaveza i pokušavanju da izbegnu svoje obaveze prema građanima.
It doesn't work in the European Union.
A u Evropskoj uniji se trudi da to ne bude pravilo, da se to ne radi.
Because you can then go to the Court of Justice in Luxembourg.
Zato onda možete da odete na centralni sud u Luksemburgu.
And you will be condemned.
I dobit ćete svoj pravdu.
And it has happened one or two times in the history of the European Union that a state has refused to do that. But that was in the early years, but the track record is that what the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg does is implemented.
Desilo se nekoliko puta u istoriji da je država izbegavala da odradi stvari u skladu sa procedurama Evropske unije, ali na kraju je za Vrhovni sud u Luksemburgu sve što je donao moralo biti primenjeno.
Now, of course, I started with the internal market, because that was where we all started with, trying to build. It wasn't called the internal market in the beginning. It was called a customs union, and then we built it to a single market. I used to work on my personally, first time that I came in the European integration department on that. I was also working on accession negotiations with Spain, Portugal and Greece, so you see I already am busy for quite a time already.
Naravno, sve je prvo počelo znači sa tržištem i sama Evropska unija je počela prvo kao carinska unija i gospodin je radio inače i na tom pristupnim pregovorima sa Španijom, Portugalom i Grčkom. Greece.
And that was the heart of it. 50% of the work was on what was called the White Book, trying to harmonize all the regulations on anything. I will mention that I was busy at one time harmonizing the sound level of grass mowing machines.
Da. Znači, prvi korak je bela knjiga koja u sebi sadrži elemente za harmonizaciju zakonodavstva jedne države sa Evropskom unijom i kaže, kao zanimljiva stavka je bila, znači, čak harmonizacija nivoa buke koje prave kosačice trave da budu u skladu sa evropskim propisima.
But don't think that these are minor issues, because, for example, if we take another one, the thickness of a pressure valve
Znači, nemojte misliti da to jednostavno postoji druga debljina ventila za pritisak.
It has to do with the technical competence of different firms. The level you establish this has to do with it. Therefore, it is very important to have a level playing field there.
Da, jer to s druge strane utiče na veliki broj kompanija i njihovu tehničku kompetitivnost, mogućnost da proizvodnje i plasmana takvih elemenata.
And therefore you have to have this agreement that your product is allowed to get on that market having the European standard. Perhaps not having the highest standard, but the European standard.
Zato je veoma bitno, ako hoćemo da imamo tržište na kome različiti proizvođači se učestvuju, da postoje standardi, možda ne najviši, ali da postoji nešto zove evropski standard koji reguliše jasna pravila u tržištu.
Now, of course, this was the basis. And then we started to build on it. And I think the environmental policy of the European Union is one of the great extensions to the European Union.
Znači, to je bio neka baza, početak, kao nadgradnja, sad se govori o toj zaštite životne sredine koja je veoma bitna u procedurama Evropske unije.
We have a strategy to stop the decline of endangered species, and it's called Natura 2000.
Znači, postoji veoma bitan proces koji sprečava degradaciju vrsta, prirodnih vrsta, i koji se zove Futura 2000.
There are more than 26,000 protected natural areas in the European Union.
Znači, preko 20.000 zaštićenih vrsta u Evropskoj uniji.
Areas.
Površina, oblasti.
And these are not nature reserves, but areas where you have to keep special rules in your economic development.
To nisu nacionalni rezervati, ali su prostori u kojima je potrebno držati posebne uslove da bi zaštitilo postojanje tih specifičnih.
So that we keep the nature intact.
Da bi se zadržala priroda kakva je, uslovi prirodi kakvi su bili pre.
We also are promoting, and that is the new challenge, we are promoting a resource-efficient green economy. We think that the successful economies of the future will be those economies who use their natural resources in a very efficient way and reuse natural resources.
Znači, sljedeći vrlo ambiciozni projekat je da se razvije ekonomija na način koji će da štiti prirodne resurse, da ne bude iskorišćavanja, prethodnog iskorišćavanja resursa u cilju razvoja ekonomije.
And for example, I think it was mentioned earlier when we came together, you have a milk factory. Well, the cows produce also all kinds of things you can use to make bioenergy. You can fire the milk factory with that. That is, instead of throwing it into the river.
Na primjer, prilikom proizvodnje mleka imamo farme koje imaju velike razne materijale koji mogu da se koriste za proizvodnju energije kao biomaterijal, a ne da se izbacuju i da zagađuju prirodnu sredinu.
Water is a very important resource, and water is going to be very scarce in the world. Using it, reusing it, and if you have to let it go into the general nature system in a clean way is becoming very important.
Voda je naravno veoma bitan stavlja u životnoj sredini i vrlo je bitno koristiti vodu na način da je i veoma ograničen resurs, tako da je veoma bitno koristiti vodu na način prilikom upuštanja natrag u prirodu da se ne ugrožava životna sredina.
And this has become really a priority of the European Union. And a lot of the new European legislation is about this.
Ovo je novi prioritet i velika stavka novog zakonodavstva Europske unije je fokusirana na zaštitu životne sredine.
And then we have energy. Energy is also something which we have to look at much more than in the past.
Naravno, energija je još jedna stvar koja je mnogo postaje značajna i na koju mora mnogo više se vraća pažnje nego što je činjeno u prošlosti.
And that means that we have a formula, it's called 20-20-20.
Tako da sada postoji formula koja se zove 20-20-20.
And that is that by the year 2020, that is the first 20,
znači do 2020. to je prvi.
we will have 20% reduction in EU greenhouse gas emissions compared to the levels of 1990.
Znači, bit će 20% umanjenje emisije štetnih gasova u odnosu na 1990.
We will consume 20% of our energy consumption will be of renewables.
20% ukupne proizvodnje će biti bazirano na obnovljivim izvorima energije.
And the use of energy, the quantity of energy we will use, that's the third 20, will be reduced by 20%.
I ukupna potrošnja energije će biti smanjena za 20% u odnosu na...
So, you can easily remember it, 20-20-20.
Tako da lako možete da pamtite da je to strategija 20-20-20.
And of course, the long-term goal goes beyond that. We want to reduce greenhouse emissions to about 80% less than the levels of 1990.
Takođe, dugoročni ciljevi idu i dalje da se smanji štetnih gasova, emisija štetnih gasova za 80% odnosno na 1990.
By the year 2050.
50. Do 2050.
Yes, because these things are extremely difficult to do. I mean, the investments you have to do for this are huge.
Da, to su veoma teški zadaci jer su sam nivo investicija veoma veliki da bi se ostvarili ti cilj.
And so 2050 is a very ambitious target indeed.
Tako da je 2050 veoma ambiciozan cilj.
So what does that mean? Serbia is then member. It means that Serbia will have to invest massively in renewable energies, in energy saving and reuse of materials, and so this means it will change the complexity of how you are doing business.
Što to znači?
Not the complexity, the face of doing...
Što to znači za Srbiju? Znači, Srbija sad kao buduća članica će morati da primenjuje sve te stavke, znači morat će mnogo više da ulaže u smanjenje potrošnje energije, u uključivanje obnovljivih izvora energije i što bi trebalo na kraju da promeni celu sliku, imidž Srbije, kako ona gazduje sa svojim energetskim sektorom.
Now, if you are at that moment a member, then you will also get a lot of support from regional funds.
Naravno, ako Srbija bude član, onda će ona dobiti dosta veliku podršku finansijsku od regionalnih fondova za primjenu tih.
But the work will have to be done by Serbia itself.
Ali sam posao mora biti obavljen u Srbiji i da bi
Then there's the last thing. There's much more because the European Union is evolving and is entering into new areas the whole time. For example, we have the area of education, we have the area of technical and research cooperation. So we are, but these I think are some of the main themes I wanted to put. Another main theme is that the European Union has a foreign policy.
Još jedna veoma bitna stavka je vezana za spoljnu politiku. Bez obzira što Evropska unija stalno evoluira i ona ima velike ulaganje i velike promene i nove zakone vezane za obrazovanje, za tehničku podršku.
The idea behind it is that the European Union, with 500 million people in 28 countries, if the European Union can speak with one voice and its own weight, it will carry much more weight in the world than if it is doing that on an individual basis.
Ideja strane vođenja spoljne politike se svodi na to da ukoliko 500 miliona ljudi u 28 država koliko mogu da govore jednim glasom, to će imati mnogo većeg uticaja nego da svaka zemlja za sebe vodi svoju spoljnu politiku.
And in order to do that in 2009, with the Lisbon Treaty, the function of the European High European Union High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy was created, for short, Mrs. Ashton at this moment.
Da bi se to ostvarilo 2009. Dogovorom iz Lisabona je dogovoreno da se formira komisarijat koji će voditi spoljnu politiku i gospođa Ashton je predstavnik Europske unije.
Until at this moment there will be a new commission coming in soon. And it created an own diplomatic service.
I naravno, novi gospođa Ashton će neko naslediti vrlo brzo i naravno to se također odnosi na kreiranje svoje sopstvene diplomatske mreže kao Evropske unije.
Which is called the European External Action Service.
I stručni naziv je spoljnačna služba Evropske unije.
And what does it do? Well, it of course tries to help in what the member states themselves also want to do, and that is to preserve peace and security, strengthen international security, strengthen the international rule of law, promote international cooperation, to develop and consolidate democracies, the rule of law, respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms.
Generalni ciljevi su jednaki kao i što bi bilo koja pojedinačna zemlja imala, znači da se radi se o spoljnoj i politici sigurnosti, sačuvanja mira u svetu, jačanje međunarodne sigurnosti, promociju internacionalne saradnje i razvijanje i konsolidacija demokratije, zakona, vladavine prava i poštovanja ljudskih prava i osnovnih sloboda.
It acts through diplomacy, through partnerships, and because of the sheer size of the continent, we are the largest donors for development cooperation. We have ways of putting our views across and help to realize these goals.
Naravno, kao jedna od najvećih država i najvećih donatora pojedinačnih, Evropska unija posjeduje i određene sredstva da bi ostvarivala te svoje ciljeve i kroz druge.
So what should Serbia do? Well, Serbia should, and then we come back to the way it is normally put, and that is concentrate on the road towards that goal.
Znači, šta bi sad Srbija trebala? Srbija bi sad trebala se koncentriše na sam put prema Evropskoj uniji.
But I wanted to show you it from a different perspective. You have the goal, you have the direction, and you have the road towards it.
I on bi to htio da vam čisto pronaći sad neke druge perspektive, znači postoji cilj koji treba da se stigne, postoji put do tog cilja.
I think you have already made a lot of progress. You have improved the quality of your democracy in the past few years. You have adopted laws on these automatic revocation of parliamentarians, with letters of automatic revocations.
Dosta toga je već i učinjeno, znači Srbija je dosta uradila na pitanju zakonodavstva, pogotovo napominje slučaj, znači automatskih ostavki